Great. Hey, we're live, right? Let's start the meeting.
Yep, hopefully we are now. So let me just, yep. So welcome everyone to Meshery Relevant meeting. This is a weekly meeting that happens every Wednesday. And Meshery is cloud manager, which lets you visually design and deploy your cloud native infrastructure. And so today we'll be sharing all the topics and the updates that we have on the various components inside the Meshery from contributors. So before we get started, let's follow Layer 5 tradition, and that is like if you're joining this call for the first time, irrespective of whether or not you were on the website's meeting or other calls, but if you are specifically for the first time joining this call, so you get to take the stage. You can unmute yourself and give your intro to the community. So who do we have today who is joining us for the first time? I'll take a look in the participants list and I see Monique. So Monique, would you like to give your intro?
Hey, hi everyone. How are you? My
Great,
name is
thank you for
Monik,
joining.
and my name is Monik, and I'm in Canada right now. I'm interested in like DevOps and the cloud computing. So I'm joining a community for doing open source work and learning more new things.
We quite missed the last part that you said. Can you please?
Like I'm joining this community to learn more about the open source development and enjoying with you all guys.
Okay. Would you like to also, share about your tech stack, like what's the language that you use at work or in your projects?
So I'm mostly working the front end development, and currently I'm working in the cloud like DevOps side.
So yeah, thank you for joining, and hopefully we'll get you some of the, good first issues to work on. So thank you for introducing. I also see Tejas in the participants list, but I just will quickly ask, like Tejas is the first time that you are joining Mystery Relevant meeting. And just a quick heads up, in case if you are having any audio or mic issues, you can always use chat to give your intro. So I guess this is having some problem, but other than him, I think all of us are old timers. So, but in case I missed anyone, please do introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, hi.
Hi, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I am Abhishek Singh Kushwaha and I am a third year BTech DSI student at IIT Bhilai, and I am here in Meshery to do a lot of open source work uh, and make new connections. So, hi everyone.
So, yeah, welcome to the call and to the community. I think I see you making quite a buzz around the community, opening some of the issues too. So that's really great.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Then I also see Cosmos Devesh. So I'll just quickly request, like, please, add your full name to the participant list, Devesh. And in case if you would want to, give your intro, so please feel free to do so.
Yeah, sure.
Would you like to, introduce? So you can, I think Devesh will introduce in the chat. So I don't think we have any more newcomers on the call today, but in case I missed anyone, please, always make sure you give your intro. So with that, now we'll be starting with the topics, and these are a couple of the topics that we'll be going through. And in case any one of you have any idea or any issues to discuss, you want any help, you make sure you write them down in the meeting notes. I'll once again share this talk in the chat. And also please make sure you write your name in the attendees so as to mark your attendance. And so with that, let's now get rolling. So first topic is from Senani. So Senani, would you like to, present your updates?
Sure. So I'm working on migrating a page to RTK. So I have migrate few pages in here. Like in this pair, I migrate settings, page database, summary, and related queries. And also there's another PR which I have migrate all the APIs into RTK environment and workspaces. So anyone interested in want to work on RTK migration, you also can contribute. So this is the issue related to that. So you can ping a message, comment in this issue if you want to contribute. So this uh, introduction section, I have give some idea how to migrate to RTK, and also you can get idea and you can work on that.
Yeah, so like this is a site like Sinali is making a call for volunteer here. So like if any one of you would want to work on this area, so I've shared the link in chat. You're free to go and have a look, and then signal like whether or not you think you would want to work on it. So anybody would like to have any? I mean, anyone would like to signal whether or not you can take up this assignment? Not to mention, you always can, also mention it in the GitHub comments. So yeah. Any other updates from you, Senali?
No, that's from myself. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for sharing your updates. I'll share my screen once again. And then second item is from Ripple. So I'll see if we have Ripple on the call. Yeah, we do. So Ripple, do you mind sharing it?
Yeah, 1 second.
You are muted, Ripple, in case you are speaking.
Okay. So I have 4 agendas today. The first one is the in the notification center, the task management. We have a notification center bar that was missing the item list. So I have just added the abstract for that particular managing the notification. And the second one is the interactive pagination for the model and the component command. As per the request, I have introduced a new flag in it, the count flag, that will give the total number of models and the components present in at present, and also the as whenever a particular user enters the command for the all the models and components, at the top of that particular list there will be the page number, and the total number of models and components will also be shown there. So the another agenda is the relationship for the CSI driver and other Kubernetes components. Like I have defined the relationship from the CSI driver to all the components like pod, replica set, job, deployment, and extra. And the last one is for relationship for the horizontal pod autoscaler and the other Kubernetes component, like from the deployment stateful set and the replica set, there will be a relation for the HPA. Whenever a HPA will be brought near to the deployment or any of the mentioned components, the relation will be defined, and the API type, name, and the API version of that deployment will be written inside the HPA.
Oh, Ripple, have these been tested?
No, not right now.
Okay.
I will add the
Can you-
screenshot in the PRs.
Okay. How do we know when these are ready for merge?
I will add the screenshot if by today, if I'm able to def
Yeah.
define the relationship in my local setup, then it's good to go.
If you're able to define it, or if you're able to,
Make the relationship like there is HPA and there is a deployment. If put the HPA on the top of the deployment, if the configuration is being auto generated in the background, then it is good to go.
okay. How do we know that this doesn't negatively affect another relationship?
Like the HPA doesn't have any other relationship right now, but the deployment have. I will check for the deployment has relationship with the config map. I will also check it if the configuration is correct. Then
Yeah, on an
and
ongoing basis, how do we know? I mean, this is going to get quite complex, right? This is going to be hundreds of components, potentially one relationship affecting another. How will we know?
like we
A
can
test.
do one thing.
We can have a test based on the master design. So we have published a master relationship design.
Yep.
So based on that we can test like whether these new relationships are breaking or not. But yes, a test would be needed. If Mario is on the call, he can help us write one.
I'm not sure. Mario, have you started work on Playwright?
Yeah, still working on setting it up. So
Okay.
hopefully I get done this week. Had a lot of work, so sorry for the delay.
Okay, so to be fair, I don't know, to be fair to Mario, or like, I wouldn't wait on Mario. I wouldn't wait on that. Like getting started with Playwright is, well, it's really quick, actually. They make it easy to install in VS Code. They set up an initial test example for you. So if we're going to use Playwright, which by the way, it has trouble with interacting with the canvas, which is one of the places where we would test this. What's the solution there?
We can programmatically, I think, test that like whatever the nodes are that are present on the canvas, we can grab the Cyto instance and check like what is the desired node and desired config, set against that.
So you're talking about writing Cyto-based tests, not Playwright based.
No,
Right.
like we will directly use, instead of using mouse clicks and uh, pointers and everything, and after downloading that file and asserting it, we will directly interact with the nodes present on the canvas by using the Cyto instance.
Okay. So what would the tests be written in?
Yeah, test would still be written in Playwright. Or
No. Since Playwright doesn't interact at that level. Unless you're writing JavaScript in Playwright, like plain JavaScript that then is going to be invoked from.
yeah. So Playwright will run the test, and inside the test, like whatever we will grab the since the browser would be loaded with the canvas, and we will have the Cyto instance to interact with directly. So in that, inside the Playwright test, we will do that thing.
Okay. Have you prototyped this, or this is just?
No, I have not prototyped it, but I think this would be the way. Generally,
Okay.
it is the
Have
way.
we done this? Have we done with a different test framework so that you have some sense that some level of confidence that would work?
Yeah, so in Cypress, the mesh map snapshot that we have, we in that framework, we are like quite interacting with like grabbing the Cyto instance and doing some stuff based on that.
Do we need to use either of those that framework at all? Why can't you just take a design, import it, open it, export it, confirm that, assert that it had the changes, that the relationship was formed? You could circumvent almost the entirety of the framework. All you'd need to do is have it open, close it. Could be another way. You could use CUDO or just other standard YAML assertion, because that way you're testing for the outcome and it's strictly focused on that. It's another thing just path to consider, an option. Maybe it's a little shorter. It kind of leaves a black box in the middle, so to speak. Have there been advancements on the potential use of? So there haven't been any advancements towards Playwright, is what it sounds like, and so this is in part why I'm pushing right now, because when I see these PRs, I don't know what to do with them. I don't know that there's any rego that backs them. I don't know that they're impacting another relationship. Is this particular one So I guess maybe this is a nice example of what we have here is a quite a long relationship. So it covers a handful of concerns, some for HPA, some for deployment, some for namespace, maybe. So that's intriguing. That's a nice proof point for some of the work that you all have put in terms of how flexible just one expression can be. You know, one JSON relationship can be quite expressive and capture many sets of selections, many sets of relationships that all fall to the same type and kind and subtype rather. So that's pretty neat. Abid, just that black box that I was alluding to a moment ago in the middle, any thoughts toward some of the state machine testing that might be done that might help with this? Maybe some of that doesn't help with the relationships directly. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, like the tests for state machine, we can do that on an integration test level rather than on the end-to-end test level. So I think then it would be more efficient if we do it on an integration. We just have the state machines and we can even mock some of the dependencies on the way, because then we can granularly just test how the state machines are working. And in the end-to-end test, we don't need to then go that deep. Like we always know what we asserted previously.
Nice. So Uzair, it sounds like one of the directions that I was pushing just now of Playwright being unable to or inappropriate for JavaScript CITO level testing of the objects in the DOM is probably safe to assume that that's inaccurate, rather that even though there hasn't been a prototype done, that based on the fact that Cypress was able to do it, that Playwright would be able to do a similar thing. So that makes sense to me. That's good.
I think like the Playwright and Cypress on the upper level, they are kind of the same things. Like the problems we might have with Cypress, we might still get in Playwright, but we might do it in a cleaner way and have less flaky tests. We just need to like properly know what to test in an end-to-end test and what we can test without going into, because then we would have quick tests which we can rely on. We can test efficiently, like continuously while we're developing also, so we know where anything breaks. And some part of like the tests are just pure functions that we can easily test using unit tests also on the bottom line.
So good. The sooner that we get that test figured out, the better. Even if immediately, Uzair and Rapul, even if it was that now that you've defined a master relationships design, or one that has all relationships, even if it was just having a snapshot taken of that design with the relationship changes, even if it was just loading up that design and seeing that, yes, the relationship formed, even if it was just a visual thing that a human did, it would still, the PRs could merge then, because you could see that all relationships had been formed. As you know, in the interim, until we work towards something that's a bit more programmatic.
Yes.
So is that okay? Is that kind of Uzair, is that sort of what you were alluding to a moment ago? You're like the expectation that maybe a screenshot of that design might be done and to put into the PR as
Yeah, so that was exactly what Ripple was trying to say, that he will paste the screenshots for the existing ones.
Gotcha. So just as a recap for some of us, maybe for me as well, the notion that this hierarchical inventory relationship that's 300 lines long now, the notion that it's able to capture that many relationships, is that a direct outcome of the relatively new support for sets of selectors?
Yes, they support sets of selectors.
It's not, that wasn't my question though.
Yeah,
You want me to
basically, yeah,
repeat?
like this is
But
because of the
Rapul,
data sets that we have these
oh,
will be
nice.
now
That's
supported
great.
in a
That's
single.
one. Good. I'm still kind of hoping like Rapul or Uzair would answer this question though, since you guys are presenting.
Or like I was not listening, I was answering to Mario's question, so I didn't hear the
Cool.
question.
How about you, Rapul?
And the selector will work with all the relationships that we are allowing, the new relationships we are creating.
Cool. That wasn't my question, but good. Abid answered my question. Okay, thanks. That's good. Do other people have questions and comments and things? Do other people upset at me for maybe being direct? Mario, I apologize. Just trying to be realistic. Rapul, how are the sets working out?
Direct is good. Direct is good. It emulates a real work environment, which I think the majority of us, if not had recently graduated, are still studying and wanting to work in the industry, should expect the same.
It's pretty gnarly. It's pretty vicious. As a matter of fact, intentionally antagonistic by competitive coworkers or competitive directors or other managers of other groups that want to overtake or disprove things that you're trying to get done. It gets pretty nasty in the workplace. It's a good point. But anyway, we don't have to be nasty here necessarily, but being direct is good. So good. So Rapul, this is great, man. It is a really cool thing to see how long this relationship is. It just means you don't have to be walking. You can walk around with really small, in terms of numbers of lines, small relationships, or you can walk around with, one really huge one, and it's circumstantial. It's your choice. And thus far, have you defined any that are outside of the Kubernetes model?
No.
That would be an interesting proof point as well. Has anyone else, there've been a couple of other contributors who've recently jumped in to potentially be a comrade in arms here on relationships. Has anybody else gotten any traction?
No,
Okay.
not right now.
This might be an opportune moment as a call for volunteers. So that there are, does anyone know how many, is there over 1,000 components right now?
Yes,
Yes.
they're around 1,100 and something.
Very good. So for each one, they would at least have one relationship that implicates them. If not, I don't know, 10 or 20, I don't know. That means that if you're here on the call, like Tejas is, but was too shy to say hi earlier, that you might, and you're into Kubernetes, and you might want to help in this area, because this is one of the easier areas to help in. This is an area that if you're into DevOps, you want to learn DevOps and what Kubernetes is, or what any of the other projects are, this is like one of the best ones to do it. Rapul, were you going to add to that? Like, this is one of the ones where you need to go over, kind of understand the project itself. Like my favorite example, Prometheus. There's a Prometheus server. There's a Prometheus alert manager. There's a Prometheus alerting rule. There's PromQL. There's a few aspects to that project, and those are largely represented in the components that Meshery has. Each of those components, they need to be considered. We need to think about each component and ask ourselves, how does this component relate to any of the other components that Meshery might manage, all those 1,000 other components? Well, I don't know. If you have a Prometheus alerting rule, can anyone think of what an alerting rule might say? Like, what might be an example alerting rule?
like based on the overconsumption of resources or similar to that.
Yeah, nice. Like maybe like a high CPU inside of a pod, maybe. So if there's a model for Prometheus that Meshery has, so it does, and inside that model there are Prometheus alerting rules, the components. Yeah. So what Uzair is saying is that those alerting rules may well relate to a Kubernetes pod. Kubernetes is its own model inside of Meshery, and it has many components. One of the components is a pod. So boom. So right there, it sounds like we're learning or we're identifying that there's a possible relationship that would need to be codified in JSON format, just like what we're seeing in this pull request. It's really straightforward. And it's only a handful of lines. That way, Meshery can more deeply understand and more deeply trying to think of a word other than model. But can manage these components in a more sophisticated way. So did I get Tejas to come off mute? Or anybody else here that's wanting to do DevOps? Shubham.
Yeah,
I have a
I'd like
demo.
to.
Sandra's raising her hand. Wonderful. I think. And Shubham, are you saying you might be interested as well?
Yeah. Even I would like to. Can you just give me a few description regarding
Yeah, I
relationships
just
and why
did.
do we use them?
Yeah, I
Can
just did. Did you follow that Prometheus one?
Yeah. I just understood like what there are some components we're using in our website, and I even went to this website alerting tools from Prometheus, but I don't know why we are using relationships and Meshery website, and like why do we need them?
Yeah, that's good. There's so Rapul can answer your question. He's probably got a few resources to give you.
Yeah.
As well.
I will share the link of those resources in the chat right now.
Okay. Sure. Thank you.
Vivek, this might be.
Like, Ripple, do you have any other updates? Not so, then I'll share my screen. And I will like you might consider muting yourself like if you. So thank you, Abid. And next item is from Sandra about tutorial. So Sandra, would you like to?
Yes, thank you, Vivek. Somebody give me a note when you can see my screen. Yes, no?
Yes, please go ahead, Sandra.
All right. So I will be presenting my first attempt at tackling one of the tutorials. So these tutorials are one of the few that we're migrating away from the Kataconda scenario tutorials. So mine is the Exploring Kubernetes cron jobs in Meshery. I have created a draft PR only because I would like, just not necessarily a review, but if somebody were to happen onto the PR and notice something that could be improved, they could possibly notify me in Slack. So this is just what I have done so far. I have created within the guides, I created a section for all the tutorials that are to come in the future. Right now, you only see mine that is listed. So when users click on tutorial, they just generally see the introduction of what's on most of the guides. So hands-on labs, using Meshery Playground, which the wording can be changed later. This is just placeholder text that I put there just so we have something. And so they would then click on the tutorial like so. This is the one that I'm working on. The first parts are the demo, or rather the dummy data that was already placed there, not necessarily dummy data, but just like the helpful dummy data that we will build on. And this is what I have done so far. Added the content for deploying a web application. I've added a few screenshots to go along with the points. So right now we have about 8 points. And so my next step is to move on to creating the actual cron job to update this section. So this is the section that I've worked on so far, which is just going through the steps of how to deploy a tutorial. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so Sandra, like some of the images are they like cropped out, or like they were not being rendered?
Sorry, Vivek, I can't hear what you are saying.
Okay, so like on that page that
Is
we
it just
created.
me?
Oh, I can hear him.
Yes, yes. So Sandra, like let me follow up with you in the Slack.
Sorry, I didn't catch what you said.
We will talk about this in Slack then.
Oh, okay, that sounds serious. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I think he's only saying that just because you can't hear him. I think he was gonna
Oh,
ask
okay. Now I can hear him, but I'm still leaving with the notion that, oh, that sounds
if
serious. See you in
No,
Slack
no.
then.
No, I think from what I saw, it seemed like you were hitting it on the head. Seemed like he was going to ask a question or two about the screenshots, but um, just to confirm that what was being shown was coming through and wasn't just an accident. Anyway, when he sees the PR, he'll be able to tell. I can't.
Okay.
From what I saw, I don't think that there was, did you left in half of the text, so to speak, and then sort of replaced the other half with Meshery specific instructions? Is that about how it went?
So I've left everything as it was, the template, right? And I've only edited the first section, which was deploy a web application. And so that section was blank. And so that the screenshots that you see are the new information that I've put in according to the Meshery. So I'm using the playground.
Nice.
Yeah. And then the
Sound-
next steps will be actually doing the actual tutorial for the Kubernetes cron job. So I'm going step in step and then pushing the draft PR, step in step and pushing to the draft PR until it's done.
Nice. And that brings up that brings up the idea that some of those tutorials may have redundancies across them, like step one, log into the playground or something. Like some of these steps might be universal to each of the tutorials. So
Yeah.
it might make sense that that's only done once and tutorials just refer to that instead of repeating it. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, so that can be done on the landing page for the tutorial. So under /guide/tutorials, on there we can specify this information that you will need access to the playground, and then we can refer to all the different tutorials that we will have. So this can be done.
All right, so I will leave it as is, and then once it's ready for review, because all the issues look identical to this one, so I'm unsure if I were to change mine, and then if it were to get merged, or whoever gets merged first, then we copy that first part, or if this is information that we're going to be willing to repeat for each person that pulls up a PR for this type of issue.
Yeah, we'll take a look at this at the PR center, then we'll let you know. So thank you for sharing your updates. And next up, the item is from Ahmed. So I think we do have Ahmed on call. So Ahmed, would you like to go ahead and share your?
Yeah. So basically, this is an update on the shape menu that I was working on. So I was done with the whole refactor, and then Abid asked me to convert some of the API calls to RTK query, because that is what we will use when we move forward from now. So I also done that, and there were like some items, some places where Abid asked me to refactor some or change some stuff. So I think that's done, and I think it's ready for merge. So yeah, I've completed this. So yeah, this is
Any chance, like, do you have the PR built up?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, that would
Mm,
help.
okay. Mm.
You can switch to the designer. You might not have.
Mhm.
Like there is a button.
Sure. Yeah. So wait, I'm in the wrong branch. Just give me a second. I thought I had just built up. I'm just on the wrong branch. Mm.
While you are building the branch, so
Mm.
I will just ask some questions. So right now, we had a couple of these component pickers. So the thing that your PR does is like we're just using the same component. So just giving context. So now the how is it going? Like the Kubernetes picker and the shapes picker and the generic component picker. Are we using the same component for all of three?
Mm, I'm not sure about the Kubernetes picker, but we are using the same for components and shaping, because that was the ask.
Yeah, so the thing then, because like the right now the Kubernetes, because it's also a bit different, like it's a bit wider and I think it's completely different component, but reuse some parts. So you can just make it also the same component. That's the because it's just the open model of the shape open model, nothing other than that. So that can be also reused. So we'll get the best out of the work, and we just have single component to manage.
Uh, yeah, I guess. But I think, it's using the same component that we show
Yeah, it's
inside
just
inside
the
the
outer
picker.
shell, a bit of like styling
Yeah,
and nothing else. So
yeah,
you
yeah.
can easily use it.
I just confirm, like, since my bandwidth is not stable, so I was not able to catch it fully. So, like, Ahmed, you're done, right?
Yeah,
Like
I just have,
he is
I'll have to
building.
build it. So I think we can cycle back to the demo.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
okay. That would be. So, Abid, you're up next.
Yeah, sure. So recently we had some developments inside the extension point of Meshery. The thing that Ahmed was also talking about, that's Meshery. It's an extension of MeshMap, and I have a few PRs on that, mostly merged right now. So the one is about we have a new relation now, the inventory relation, and that's the same thing like which Ripple was talking about at the start. So basically in meshmap we help the users to get the best out of this thing by allowing them to create relations between components that helps to reduce duplicacy and redundancy, so users can easily get the best out of without filling the whole config. So basically if there is a component on screen, to get it deployed and to make it functional, we have to set some data on it, like mostly the fields that we usually specify in YAML. But here in meshmap what helps us is like the product itself can infer some of the information from the design itself, and that's what these relations help with. They check what is on the canvas and how we can just fulfill this information and how we can connect to the different components that are on the canvas. So basically, we right now support a bunch of relations that I think don't need to talk about all of them, but one of them is the inventory relationship, which just as name suggested, we had one for the previously for the Wasm filter. So we have a whole separate tab for Wasm filters. What it does is like if we have something like an envoy filter, and we can then just drop a Wasm filter on it, so it will go into its inventory. So this shows how many items are in the inventory. In the same manner, this same kind of relationship can be also made for the node group. So basically like a deployment or a pod. So right now we support a single relationship with this kind of behavior, which the config map to a deployment. And so if we have a deployment on the canvas, we can just drag a config map and it will go inside the inventory for deployment. And I actually messed up a bit with the styling of my components, so otherwise it's a bit different, like it's not a blue blob. So apart from that, so this now gets attached to this particular deployment, and this just sets the visual paradigm for the relationship. And we just now need to define, as Pool is doing, these same kind of relationship for other components. Like we have the same for replica sets and a bunch of other components like that. Just we need to define it, and this will do the job. And we also have some other relationships like the mount relationship and couple others, and we might also add some new, but this is the one that we added, and this is now merged.
Shubham, I wonder if you might have questions here. I wonder if this makes sense to you, or if do you have questions on this?
Yeah, there can be Watson filters for things on this, but I got to like I understood what he was explaining regarding creating a little bit I understood regarding that. So yeah, I'll have to go through this Watson filter
Wait.
usages and
Okay, wait. Yeah, good. All right. Can you do me a favor? Can you speak a little bit louder? And then can you also like give me an example of what's being used? It's one thing, like I'm trying actually, so I'm gonna ask you this question mostly just to help you, just to help make sure that you really do understand what's going on. And so the relationship that's being displayed here, can you contrast this new one, this node group inventory, to just a node inventory? What's the difference?
okay.
Remember, speak a little bit louder when you do respond. And if it's just, I'm not sure, then just say that.
Yeah, sir, I'm not sure regarding this.
Okay, no problem. That's why I'm asking. Good.
Yeah.
It makes my question worthwhile. Good. Does Ahmed, do you want to maybe field that question? Like, what's the difference, at least visually, between an inventory relationship with a single node and an inventory relationship with a node group?
Sorry, I don't.
Okay.
So I think like for when we have an inventory relation with a node, it gets attached to that particular node. Like the Wasm filter is now attached to this component, but with a node group, it gets applied to either all of the components that are inside that node, or if for some particular relationship, it might be just we can select a couple of the nodes that are inside that node group, or like we can have all of them or single one, or any of like a few, but that's the actual thing. Like it can be applied to multiple components inside that node group.
So why do we need to create a node group? Like what is the reason for creating a node group? And you have to, you can add multiple node groups, right? So what is the reason of making a group? And yeah,
Basically, like having a node group is the same idea. Like we can then have apply like some properties that get related to all of the components that are inside them. It's just like a parent-child relationship.
okay,
So
okay.
Cool. Okay,
Would
good.
that
Yeah, I asked that just because, excuse me. I asked that just because, oh, this is just one of those other types of relationships, and we were talking about relationships earlier, so this is just an further explanation as to, well, what the different types of relationships are and how some of these have been visualized. There are Rapul, how many types of relationships do we have now?
Right now we have 5 types of relationships.
How many?
Five.
No way. No.
Like the type, like the inventory, hierarchical, mount, network, permission, like those.
Yeah, like those.
Yeah, we
But they,
right. Yeah,
so
right now we have.
in terms of the combinations of kinds and subtypes, Uzair, how many do we have total?
Total, they would be, yeah, so Abhi is showing like 16. So based on the combination of selector sets, but for if you are, but if we count via like uniquely by a kind and subtype, then they are 5 to 6. I mean, like the if you count by different visual paradigms, for example, like hierarchical inventory has different paradigm versus hierarchical parent, then the bindings type have different paradigms. So if you go by different visual presentation, so they are few. But if you count by the combinations of like from which component and to which component they apply, we have around more than 10, I guess. I don't know the exact number, but yeah.
Cool. Okay, and so this is the latest one. The node. It's difficult to understand the example because Abid was apologizing for the zero contrast
Design.
coloring that he has going on. Yeah, and that's just a
yeah, that's the local thing. I changed the component styling. I think some property got malformed.
and you can't change. Can you change the color right now?
Actually, I should be able to change.
Okay, nice. That just helps a little bit. So there's 3 config maps that have been related to or mapped to this deployment. Okay. And so in concept, it's sort of carrying around the configuration of 3 different config maps. And one of the config maps has a problem. This is super important. I mean, the work that Rapul is doing is quite key. And that's why we're making the call for volunteers, because there's a lot of this to do. It's actually quite interesting because you get to know each of these, you get to know the projects fairly well. Again, just to help contrast against the other style of inventory relationship, this Kubernetes deployment, it's being treated as a component group or a node group. So it's a big fat rectangle at the moment, which is to say that it's able to contain any number of other components. And in this case, 3 config maps. That's interesting. Maybe it could contain a bunch of other types of components, but I guess that would be dictated through these relationships that are being defined. They have to permit that or deny that or, okay. Now that particular Envoy filter, that component, it has this weird purple 1 on it, this weird badge on the lower right-hand corner. So it's the only one that has a right-hand corner, indicator. And That is it's an inventory relationship just for a single node, because this envoy filter, it's not a container. It doesn't contain any number of other, config maps or what have you, or other components. It just contains these WebAssembly filters, these purple WebAssembly filters. And so that's why it's purple. That's why you see that little thing open up inside of it occasionally down below. And so at this point, it has
Like
three WebAssembly filters.
It's not
Okay.
working. The wallet is not opening. I don't know. Maybe these ones are corrupt or it's a bug. I'll see.
But okay, but thanks for that. I know we spent a long time in this. It's just such an important. So okay.
So like if we are, as we are already on the relationship, so I was thinking of like to like we had discussion previously about having the labels. So right now so I was thinking like when we select a make a group of some components, we can uh, just like either show that functionality in a Pamela or open up a, like if we tap on here, we might open up the config tooltip to add labels to the bunch of these components. And when those will get applied, we will then have that bubbles here group. I don't know, maybe I think Pamela might be better one because it will just pop up without clicking, but either of two, we can have that kind of behavior, but it's like separate.
Oh. You're not talking for the bounding for the temporary selection, are you?
Like I was thinking, like when we make this temporary selection, we can just show a Pamela with the option to apply label to the whole, like all of these, given this label.
Okay, and that would then become a section, because otherwise, what would it anyway?
Yeah.
Interesting, awesome. Vivek, who else? We ran over time on that one. What else do we have?
So let me just quickly take a look. So like Uzad, do you have, we want to share these updates?
Yeah, sure. So whatever Ripul and Abel were discussing about the relationships and they related to components. So all these relationships and components sits under model, and most of the models are sourced from an artifact hub, which is a registry for Helm charts and policy and everything. So this is the spreadsheet that is the source for all of the models and components that you see inside Meshery UI registry, and based on that the mesh map works, and these models are core functionality of mesh map and how they integrate with it. And previously what we had is like for generating this components and sourcing this components, we had this scripts, but they were like quite flaky and didn't support multiple resistance. So we are in need of like having a factory kind of generator so that we can simply add new resistance, for example like GitHub or Docker Hub or any repository which has like Helm charts or CRDs or any such stuff, so that we can generate components and Meshery can support more integrations. So I was working on this kind of factory wherein whatever the previous resistance like artifact hub we had, and support for adding new resistance easily. So in this PR I have made some changes so that we support GitHub as a new resistant, and also lay down the foundation for adding new resistance easily, so that the scripts are quite stable, or we can directly move from the scripts to instead of using Meshery CTL CLI. So right now there is a new command being added, Meshery CTL registry. Behind this registry, there are three sub commands. Uh, Import, update, and publish. Publish meaning whatever the documentation that we have inside these columns will be published on the layer 5 docs and Meshery IO docs. So in this area, Vivek and Pranav has already worked upon. So yeah, this was the primary core of like what this component generation factory mean or model generation factory mean. So I need to like before merging this, I need to finalize on the flows. So basically lay down the flow so that it is easy to understand and digest like what actually happens when you run this command Meshery CTL commands, and how you can import new models, how you can update components. So this is the only thing to be added. So this, I was running the component generation or model generation on my forked repo. So this is an example for it. Lee might be having like a bunch of questions, so I will answer those by as I say, like by creating the flows. And while I was creating the flows and okay, I was not seeing you. Okay, so there was another issue that I was working on. So because of which I was not able to focus on the flows. And the issue was like related to connectivity in mesh sync. So just a minute. Yeah. So what was happening? We had like we had functionalities for like getting the broker point, getting the broker point and everything to, so that we Meshery server can connect with it, initiate the subscription, and then whatever the discovery that happens in that cluster is streamed to the client, which is Meshery server. But there was some logic misplaced wherein so Meshery broker pod exposes a bunch of ports which are like monitor, a port for monitor, client, server, and bunch of other ports. So there was logic not correct in extracting those ports, and that's the reason like sometimes the functionality work correctly, but sometimes like these like it was not showing as connected status, and the connectivity was like quite flaky. This issue that I'm currently describing is will not happen when you are running cluster locally on your server, but if you are trying to connect to some remote clusters, for example like the playground or some cluster that you have created inside some of the AWS cloud or GCP cloud. So in those, like, because the IP and port is not always localhost or something, so the connectivity issue that I'm talking about you will face. But for if you're running your cluster inside Docker Hub, Docker or Minikube, you will not face this functionality. So this was also the reason that this got hidden when I was like this got hidden when I was previously enhancing some of the functionalities, or whenever I've used Meshery locally. So these were the two updates primarily.
Thank you, Uzair, for sharing updates. And next up, I'll request Altaf to please share your updates. So, do we still have Altaf on call? Yeah, we do.
Yes, sure. 1 minute.
Yeah, do you mind sharing your screen and present your updates?
Yeah. Hmm. Yes, I am Alpha. Yes, this is the supporting OCI S3.
Hey, Altaf.
I have one.
Yeah, Altaf.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt, but just before you get going, do you have?
Yeah.
Can you put your microphone any closer to your mouth, or is there something else you can change that could make you a little bit louder?
Hello, hear me now? Hello.
It's still pretty
Yes.
poopy.
Yeah. I'm using microphone, so it's you. 1 minute. Now hear me now.
Yep, sort of. Not really. We might have to wait until next time. I don't know. Go ahead and try and let's see if we can make it out.
Yeah. I'm working on this issue. This issue. I have doubt. Can we work on using ORS, using this uh, issue, this OCI registry?
I think that we probably should. I think it's probably inevitable. I think it's a lot easier to use that. I don't know that we miss a lot if we're not using Flux for this. It's not clear to me that we're not. But Uzair, do you have anyway, we don't really necessarily have the time to discuss this particular aspect. Altaf, I would just to give you quick direction, I would, unless
I
Uzair
have one
says
doubt.
something else, I would say to continue with it.
I have one doubt. Can you describe this second point?
No,
didn't well
we just
understand it.
Altaf, because what we're looking for, unless I'm mistaken, I guess I thought you had maybe a pull request to demo. And the reason I'm saying no, we can't cover it is because technically the meeting is over. And I was just trying to help ensure that you got some recognition for the work that you were doing and a little bit of feedback. I mean, we definitely want to discuss these things in further detail. It's just that I don't want to we're after the meeting time, so I don't want to use that time it'll take like 10 minutes or more to cover, the design spec for this.
Yes.
So did you have an enhancement on Meshery CTL with respect to how it authenticates to EKS that you wanted to, get feedback on?
Yeah, sure. So, this is my contribution towards
I'm afraid you are barely audible.
system concept. Not all. Sorry for the issue.
You can
Yeah.
post it in the Slack channel for Meshery, and maybe also make a video if you have something to demo.
Okay.
So then, thank you, Altaf. And yeah, please make sure you post your updates in the Slack channels. You could attach your video too. So I'll share my screen once again. So we have some of the items left to be discussed, but yeah, definitely we'll cover them in the next meeting on priority. But before we end the meeting, I would want to share this meeting calendar, and I have dropped the link in chat. So there are some weekly and bi-weekly meeting you can join. You can subscribe to the calendar to get all the updates. And also don't forget tomorrow's Newcomer's meeting if you want to get some of the insights and overview on the community and project. So we'll see you next Wednesday if you join. Till then, bye everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Vivek.
Yeah, bye bye.